Hello and welcome to Self. My name is Courtney Brame. I'm a yoga informed emotional wellness practitioner, and this resource is Self Emotional Wellness for Men. I started Self in 2020, 2021 as a podcast where I just processed my therapy sessions. So there's 49-ish episodes of me going through that, and I don't know if y'all remember, but 2020, 2021, arguably 2022 were some real rough times, right? And so there was still things that were happening, and this was a very big period of introspection for the entire world. And so during this time, I happened to start seeing a therapist, and I was asking, myself a lot of questions that maybe weren't really asked there, that were more self-reflective about myself, right? Like, what do I want? Who am I, right? And in therapy, what happened was that I was given a lot of language for things to communicate that I previously hadn't had language for. And I'm so appreciative to my therapist for that. And after 50 episodes or so, like the 3 years that I was in therapy, I realized that wasn't enough. So in a recap of looking at all of the experiences that I had, from starting therapy to going into yoga teacher training for 200 hours, and then a 300-hour yoga teacher training, and then now being in yoga therapy school, and my career in the field of sexuality education and supporting people through living with herpes and a herpes diagnosis. What I learned was that there was something that I wasn't getting out of therapy that I needed. And I started to see what the difference was between the mental health component and then that other thing, that something else, right? So I've always been big on self-help. I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I've read audiobooks, mostly audiobooks. Like I can't sit and read and work through like a physical copybook just because of doing so much. But I've gotten so much out of something that I didn't really understand, which was emotions. So being around all of the women in my yoga teacher trainings and women in sex education, they had access to something that was super foreign to me, and it was emotions. And I started to see it everywhere once I started to be exposed to it enough and become curious about it in others, and then become curious about it in myself. And so as I was processing things, something else was happening. And what I realized is that I was connecting with this intangible world that was emotions or energy or spirituality, however you feel best calling it, you can call it that. I'm gonna call it emotions, right? So historically, I've understood anger, I've understood sadness, I've understood just being content, not being sad, not being mad. So I'm good, right? And there's this whole spectrum of emotions, even fear, like fear being an underlying current of what the emotion is that you might be feeling. And so as I continue to explore what emotions look like, and I'm looking at my life experiences as I was recording these podcast episodes, and just like it was just me, I was talking to myself, right? I would journal sometimes, ask a question, get to the answer, and then have some period of reflection on it. And what I didn't realize I was doing was I was experiencing the emotion after identifying the emotional undercurrent of whatever the situation was that I was in. And this is what self became. And I stopped. I stopped doing it. I let life kind of get in the way. And it's just now, it was actually June, the middle of June, where I thought to myself, man, I'm very frustrated with the mental health content that's out there for men because it doesn't speak to me. It doesn't speak to my life experiences. It doesn't speak to my income status. It doesn't speak to even my skin color, right? Like the differences of what a white man might experience are different from a black man, a Mexican man, an Indian man, especially in the United States. And everyone who speaks to men is saying men need to do this, men need to act this way, men need to treat women like this. And a lot of that shit just didn't and doesn't align for me, as I know it doesn't align for people that I have these kinds of in-depth conversations with, right? So one man might be okay with working at a factory. I don't even know if we have factory jobs anymore. who might be okay with like a consistent, stable 8 to 5 job. Another one might want the entrepreneurial lifestyle. Another one might just like giving shit away for free and running nonprofits, right? So we've got these 3 tiers of men who are all being told the same thing. You need to go out, you need to make 6 figures, you need to put all your time into yourself and your money, and this is what you need to do in order to be seen as a man, a high value man especially. And so I kind of got annoyed with that. And then even the professionals who talk to us, they're not giving us the tools we need to access the things that they want us to talk to people about, which are our emotions. We're not given the language or the skills to experience and express the emotions that we are having. So it's frustrating to talk because we don't see the purpose of it. Why am I going to talk to you about something that I don't have language for? How can I talk to you about something that I don't have language for if I'm not given the resources, the tools, the knowledge, the experience to speak to the thing that you're asking me to speak to? So I decided I joined a lot of different mental health and wellness things for men, and I would sit in these symposiums and I would watch these conversations, beautiful conversations most of the time. And then we'd get to a point where vulnerability comes up, or we talk about real stuff like suicide ideation, depression, and emotions. And it seemed like people just didn't really know what to do with that. And these are men, these are people who are supporting men, who don't understand how to facilitate these conversations. So I'm even asking questions myself. And I remember the most recent men's mental health symposium or whatever I went to, I asked them, I go, hey, so where do emotions play in all of this, right? Like, we're talking about mental health, we're talking about depression, right? Like, what are we doing to address the emotions about this? And how do we get to where we can talk about these emotions? And everybody just got quiet on me. And even the answer that I got, I didn't like. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll create my own men's emotional wellness symposium. I'll ask the questions and I'll talk to people about these things that I feel are qualified and able to talk about these things. So the men's emotional wellness symposium that you'll see, if you make a donation, you'll get access to that. It's in your receipt where it says like here, you click that, you get access to all 4 videos. So I reached out to 4 men around me who I saw to be consistently demonstrating emotional availability and intelligence on their social media platforms. And I asked them to have an hour 15-minute conversation. Cam's actually was 2 hours, but I asked them to just have a conversation with me. And so we recorded this, we sold tickets to it, actually it was free. So we had people register for it, and we had 120 people sign up for it. And I was like, wow, there's really interest in this. And it wasn't just men showing up, it was people who love and support men as well. And these conversations were very beautifully put together. I'm talking about emotional intelligence. I'm talking about sexuality. I'm talking about, the content that's out there telling us what it means to be a man. And we're deconstructing that, and we're asking questions, and we're being curious about these topics as individuals rather than a collective that's supposed to be one way. Like, that's not how we were created. That's not what we are. That's not who we are. So it was very important for me to have a way of speaking to our uniqueness as individuals and the emotional aspect of the human experience. So I put that together, I threw it together in 2 weeks. I was very surprised at the feedback that I got, and I just felt compelled to make it into a nonprofit organization. I don't know what it is, but it just feels better to be able to put this stuff out here in a way that is psychologically accessible to everybody. If you can donate, please do. I very much appreciate it, especially because starting out, like, there's a lot of upfront costs to this, and you see the website, like, I didn't make that, I didn't put that together, so I was willing to invest enough because I know that this is going to be what I'm most invested in, especially because I'm in yoga therapy training, and I feel good about implementing my yoga therapy practice for emotional wellness, especially for men, because we don't have that. We don't have a lot of emotional wellness resources, and we also don't have a lot of representation of men, especially Black men, men of color, who are in the space where there's these invaluable resources when we can tap into the emotional aspect of what it means to be a man, to be whole in our identity. And again, nobody's asking us these questions. So it's my place to learn how to not only lead, but to also facilitate the space where these conversations can be had. And I can ask you when we get to that point, like, what do you want out of life? What is being a man to you? What is your relationship to God? Like, why do you think all of this is, right? What kind of life do you want to live? Are you living that? How can we get you there, right? So that's my intention here. And I hope that as Self begins to continue to develop between the podcast episodes, the yoga classes, the content that we put out, the partnerships that are going to be developed over time, I'm really, really hopeful that you're going to get something out of this. Even if you find something here that takes you somewhere else to some other thing, I really hope that for you. I want you to be able to not conform to society's ideas of what it means to be a man if that doesn't align with you. If you have the capacity to go make six figures, you want a family, you want to do whatever men are, quote, supposed to do, and you align with that, great. My job is not to tell you what you need to do, what you don't need to do. My job is to ask you questions and get you to answer in a way that aligns for you so that your behaviors and beliefs match up and you have a consistent life and you just reduce that friction of suffering between your behaviors and your beliefs. Because once these things get in order, you have I ain't gonna say you have a smooth life, but you will have a much more aligned life. Life of integrity, a life of intentionality, and you're able to be consistent in what it is that you are choosing to take on in life. So what you can expect from Self is podcasts, weekly podcasts. You can expect these events, virtual events, hopefully in-person events later down the road. You can expect, did I say yoga classes? I might have said yoga classes already, but the book clubs, content that is going to help you with becoming more of who you want to be. I don't even like using like more or less, because nobody's more or less than anything. But for you to become more aligned, for you to be more within your own identity, your own sense of self, that's what I'm here for. I'm aiming to facilitate that conversation. So please check out the yoga classes, check out the website. If you donate, you get access to the June 30th Men's Emotional Wellness Symposium. Join us. I shouldn't say this because I don't know how long this video will be up, but November 30th, we have a virtual Men's Emotional Wellness Symposium coming up. I'm looking for speakers to present at that. I'll be facilitating these conversations as well. And again, my name is Courtney Brame, yoga-informed emotional wellness practitioner. If you need me, you can email me, Courtney@getself.org. And I look forward to connecting with y'all, man. I appreciate you taking the time to be here. Till next time.